Hey, I'm Thomas. Hey. Hey, I'm Thomas. Hey guys, my name is Thomas Murray. I'm a photographer currently based in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Originally from St. John's, Newfoundland. You may have seen me on the Hidden Beats podcast or maybe in a photo pit at a concert. My main focus right now is concerts. I do enjoy and work on portraiture as much as possible as well, but this video is kind of my test, but we're gonna see how it goes. To talk to a camera kind of by myself is really weird. Usually I have a guest if I'm doing the podcast. Regardless, I'm here to tell you about myself, kind of introduce myself to you and show you what gear I use. So first, I was born in St. John's, Newfoundland. Kind of grew up in Halifax, Nova Scotia, kind of grew up in St. John's, kind of back and forth. I lived for 6 years, I think, 7 years maybe, out west, going between Jasper, Alberta and the Rocky Mountains to Tofino, British Columbia on Vancouver Island on the west coast, where it's just miles and miles of beaches, kilometers, sorry, I'm in Canada. And during the 2020 COVID pandemic, as you all probably felt, my work shut down and I was stuck in remote BC, basically. Luckily, I had like 40 other people that worked with me and lived with me, and we were able to make the best of it. It involved a lot of beer, I'll tell you that. But during that, the government of Canada gave everybody that was eligible for it $2,000 a month. So the first thing I bought with my $2,000 was a Canon AE1 film camera and a Sony point and shoot, which I can't remember the name of, to be honest. I didn't use the point and shoot as much. I got immediately into film because I found I could buy film at the local pharmacy in Tofino. So I took that, and I now have 150-ish pictures of me and my friends during the first 3 months of the COVID lockdown, maybe like even 4 months. But at that point, I decided to move to Edmonton. Anyway, that's a whole different story. I started my career with a 77D Canon, and that I had bought off local in Jasper, Alberta. Used that camera really all the way through college and all the way through my first year of college, and then I managed to save up some money and I bought a Canon 60 Mark II. And then later that year, I bought another Canon 60 Mark II. Fortunately, the second one I bought ended up having problems. I ended up having to put $500 more into it just to get fixed. Don't buy cameras off random guys on Marketplace and meet them in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, of all freaking places. And then towards the end of my college, I had to do a work term, so I did a work term with Jackson Productions, a great studio for product and portraits and film, kind of whatever you want they can do in North End, Halifax. And they used a Canon EOS R, which I can't show you right now because I'm shooting with it. I got to play around with it a bit, and I went up to Henry's Cameras in Halifax, and I traded both those 60 Mark IIs, and I had just gotten one back. And I traded them both and got a Canon EOS R. It was my first mirrorless camera. And yeah, and I've been using that ever since. That was almost a year ago. When I bought the EOS R, it had less than 1,000 clicks on the shutter. And so the last time I checked it at least, I've put about 50K on it. And that was a couple months ago that I checked it, so it's probably up at least another 10K in less than a year, and that comes basically from concert photography. I've learned not to overshoot as much as I used to, so now I average probably 400 to 500 pictures per show, and that's still only in the first 3 songs. So if you think about it, it's still a lot of photos for roughly 10 to 15 minutes of taking pictures. Now I'm gonna talk to you about my gear and kind of what I use to take photos. I'm gonna show you some photos, gonna show you which lenses I used to take those photos. I'm not rich, so I do not have high-end gear. I have a mirrorless camera, but I have 0 mirrorless lenses because they're $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 for a mirrorless lens, and it's not in my budget right now. But I've been graced kind of with how I've purchased my lenses and such. First off, I'm going to start with the one I'm recording with right now, which unfortunately cannot show you because I'm using it. But it's a 16 to 35 Canon 2.8 lens, and it is probably my favorite lens. It's my go-to, even for concerts, unless it's at an arena or a stadium where I need a better vocal range, then it's usually my go-to. It's sharp, it's fast. I have nothing bad to say about it. It's never let me down. And my other kind of go-to lens is my 24 to 105 f4 lens. It's a workhorse, and I actually got this from a friend of mine and classmate because he just didn't use it anymore. He had also switched to mirrorless, and it was like, do you want to buy this? And I was like, yeah, I want to buy it. And then we realized that it was broken, and he's like, you know what, just take it, just get it fixed, because the price he was going to sell it to me for was the price that I paid to get it fixed. So you win some, you lose some, but girl math wise, I got a free lens. But I've shot pictures like this, and like this, and like this, and like this with this lens, and it's a workhorse. Portraiture, concerts, whatever you want. The only downside of it that I would say is that it's an f4 and not a 2.8, so it does struggle in low light. But Canon has just released the mirrorless lens that I want, and it's a 24 to 105 2.8, but it's $4,000, and I cannot afford that. So we are going to stick with what we have for now. The next one I don't use as much as I think I should. The Canon 70 to 200 2.8. It's that classic white look. That was one of my dream lenses when I first started photography, that I wanted the white lens. It's beautiful. It's great. I don't use it as much as I wish I did because it was a pretty penny that I'm still paying because I used my student loans. But I've shot some decent acts with this, like this one and Lamb of God, which was fantastic. Mastodon. But yeah, it's a good all-around lens, and it's not just used for zoom. It's great for landscape, even portraits. My next one is what I actually traded my Canon 77D for at Henry's, because I had already bought the 60 Mark II, is this 85mm 1.8. And I originally thought that it was going to be fantastic for concerts. It's not. I asked my buddy, and he was like, why did you buy that? But it's good for other things. Maybe not concerts. 1.8 is great for having more light, but in a concert setting, you're moving, it's fast, and you might not catch the focus of what you're focusing on. So I use this for portraitures, and it's amazing. It's super sharp. It's a fixed lens, so it's only 85, and I've taken photos like this, and my recent project, I'm calling it Screen Portraits. I took these, and I'm still working on that project. I have only had 2 subjects, had one canceled today, but you know, that's life. We're gonna reschedule. It'll be great. My final lens, it's my favorite. It's huge. It's not a Canon lens, it's a Sigma lens, and it's the Sigma 150 to 600. It's my festival lens. That's pretty much all I've used it for so far. I did shoot a hawk. That was cool in my backyard. This thing is a beast. It's longer than my head, and it goes even bigger. But I shot 2 festivals in a row on last summer, and Il Sonic and Lasso Country Music Festival, all in Montreal. And this is the only lens I used the entire weekend, and it was fantastic. I also shot NoFX's second last show in Montreal with it, and that probably wasn't the smartest idea. I probably should have brought something smaller, considering I could only shoot the first 3 songs, and I was right in front of the stage. Didn't know what to expect, so I brought this, but it didn't let me down. It was fantastic. The concert was fantastic, and I'm excited to use it again this summer for sure. This one was surprisingly, it's my only lens that I've ever bought that was brand new, and so I'm gonna have it for a long time, and it'll always be I think it's my sharpest, my favorite lens. I've taken pictures with like this and like this and like this and like this with it, and it's such a good all-around lens. I love it so much. So now I'm going to talk a bit about the lighting I use when I use flash, which isn't that often anymore, mainly with portraitures and in like environmental or studio, even though this is my studio, which is not a huge room. Flash is a fantastic thing to learn. Of course, I learned it in school. My teachers drove it down our throats, and I never am upset about that, because now I know how to use a flash. I know how to use a flash in daylight, darkness, whatever you need, I can do it. So this is not the most high quality Godox flash. It's a TG6852 C. I don't know. I don't really know what that means, but it's a good flash. It's done me well. I don't really have any complaints about it, and that's all I really needed to do. And show-wise, I mainly use it for local shows, because smaller venues tend to have less light, which is unfortunate, and it's not true for all of them, but sometimes you need a little extra, you know? And with that, I usually use my Magmod dome. It's just, you put this little magnetic piece right around there, and then you go, and it clips on perfectly. It expands the light so much. That's my go-to flash for flash photography, or for shows that I'm allowed to use it at. I also do a little bit of drone work, and this is my drone. It's the DJI Mini 2. Mavic Mini 2, I think that makes a difference. It's a great learner drone. As you can see, I have crashed it, but it still works. It still does the job. There's probably some things I could get fixed on it, but right now it's winter. Well, it's coming out to winter. It's almost drone season again. Yeah, it does the job for what I needed. I bought a cheaper drone, used off a guy, so that I specifically could crash it. Not on purpose, obviously, but if I did, it wouldn't be too much money out of my pocket. So that's kind of all that I wanted to say in this video, but I'm gonna try and do this as often as I can when I have something to talk about. You can check out my Instagram, my website, www.thomasmurrayphotography.com. I'll link it. I'll put all the links down there. I'll try to find all the links for the lenses as well and put them in the bottom. Thanks for watching.